Tennessee This Week from WATE's 6 on Your Side starts now.
Hello and welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Bo Williams. Early voting for the City of Knoxville primary begins on Wednesday. This week, Knox County Administrator of Elections, Chris Davis, joins us to talk about what we need to know before heading out to the polls. As always, Chris, good to see you.
Good to be here. Thank you.
All right, so first things first, we have to remind everybody this is a City of Knoxville. So let's just get this out of the way. We have talked about this in the past.
Absolutely.
A lot of people, you look at your driver's license, it says, I live in Knoxville. But you may not necessarily live in the city. And I know you get a lot of people that get confused.
It's interesting. I'm begging people in the city of Knoxville to vote, and yet we have people who live in Farragut, live in Carter, live in Halls. They want to vote, and they get mad at us because they see Knoxville on their driver's license or they see Knoxville in their address. It doesn't necessarily mean they live in the city, so that's a good point. I want tons of voters, but I want City of Knoxville residents voting in this election, not people outside the city.
Somewhere someone can go that's watching to find out. I mean, obviously, we always tell you, hey, are you paying for your trash pickup or not, right? That's one way to know, but is there somewhere else they can go?
They can go to our website, knoxvotes.org. Literally, it's a place that says, where do I vote? Type it in. It'll tell you if you're in the city or not, tell you who your elected representatives are. It's a really great resource for folks. And we want full participation from city residents.
There you go, at least this time around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. And let me ask you this. You were talking about getting people out to the polls. We were talking a little bit ago. A lot of people like to comment on social media, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't really, there's no, you can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down in Facebook or what have you, but really where your thumbs up or thumbs down is going to count is going and casting the ballot.
I think, and we talked about this off air, I think many people's method of voting is social media. They're going onto a social media page and liking something or complaining about something or registering a comment, but they don't go to the polls. And sometimes just for laughs, I'll go and see, okay, so-and-so, comments on this, they really have some vitriol maybe against a certain elected official. Let's go look up their voting record. Right. And they don't vote. And to me, you're not really accomplishing anything. And so we want people to get to the polls. If there's something that you love or something you don't like, go out and vote. This is the chance, as we talked about off air, 5 out of your 9 city council seats for the next 4 years will be decided. There are no incumbents, so you get a chance in your district to elect your leader for at least the next 4 years.
And while this is, overall size-wise is a small election, it is very important because of what you just said right there. This will have a lasting impact.
Very much so. For at least the next 4 years, potentially the next 8 years. We want as many people as possible because we do want these elected officials who do get elected to have a mandate. We want them to be able to say, hey, my voters put me in here. And when we look at some of these districts, I'll use District 6 as an example.
Sure.
There's about 12,000 and change, 13,000 people, give or take, that reside in that district that are registered voters. As we were talking off air, if you had in East Knoxville, if you have over 2,000 voters in that election, that's huge. That's still pathetic in my mind, but it's a huge number. I would love to see 4, 5, 6, 7,000 voters in each of these districts come out. And one thing that I think is worth noting, we had an election 7 months ago, November of 2024. 70,000 City of Knoxville residents voted on those 2 city council charter amendment questions for the City of Knoxville. So I know city voters know how to get to the polls. 70,000 of them. Heck, if I could get half of that, my bosses might give me a bonus. Who knows? I don't know. But it certainly would be a great thing. I just don't like low margins. And these people, no matter what you think of them, they've gone to the trouble of getting their name on the ballot. They deserve to at least have people weigh in on them.
Yeah, we saw the breakdown of the districts there just a moment ago while you were talking. This is a sample ballot. It's not long.
No.
And it's a little different this year. You're not voting for everything that's on here.
You literally, when you walk into the booth, if you're a City of Knoxville resident, you'll vote on one race. It'll take you longer to get from your car to get done with the registration process of checking in than it will to actually be cast your ballot and get out of there.
And it's important too, as is any election, to do your homework because you may be looking at the ballot, but there may be changes by the time you actually get into the voting.
That is correct. And I know what you're referring to there in District 4, and I'm not editorializing to be very clear, but there is a candidate who has dropped out of that race formally, but her name is still on the ballot because this was done after what's called the withdrawal period, when you have an opportunity to withdraw. So I just encourage voters to do just a little bit of homework. I think these candidates have done a pretty good job of getting their name out there. Anecdotally, I've talked to many of them, and they say, oh, we're knocking on X number of doors, and I've met some people. I've gone to a couple of forums. So certainly the information is out there that you can learn about these candidates pretty easily. These are your leaders for the next 4 years in the community. They deserve your support. But to be clear, when you walk in, you only have one race on your ballot.
Yeah, and that should be something. It's not going to take up a lot of your day.
Not at all. And 14 days of early voting, 2 Saturdays, generous hours. Can't promise good weather, but we hope so. But we'll see what happens.
How many locations?
6 locations throughout East, and I think we generally have one in each or adjacent to each city council district, even though District 5 is not on the ballot. So if you live up in that Oakwood, Lincoln Park area in Skip, you're not going to get to vote in this election. But if you're unsure, I encourage people, log on to Knox Votes, check out where you vote, and it'll tell you whether or not you're eligible to vote in this election.
What does it take? I mean, we've talked about it on this program before too, just about when you have something like this. There's no presidential race tied into this election cycle. Next year we'll be talking governor, county mayor, things like this, sheriff. Yeah. How do you pull people in? I mean, I know that's not your job to go out and hey everybody, but I mean, you got to think it's not going to take a whole lot of time. No. But you would also sit there and you think, does the political climate, does something trickle down from the national level that makes you say, hey, wait a minute, from the local level, I need to vote for my person so that we do or don't follow certain trends nationally or what have you.
Absolutely. But each individual's voter motivation is different for every single voter. Anecdotally, we've heard about all sorts of issues in the city, and whether you like them or you don't, having to deal with everything from taxes to parking meters to, we get these calls every day. People want to know who their elected representative is, and quite often I want them to know before they go into the booth rather than calling me 3 or 4 years into a term. And this is the opportunity for people to, if you are civically minded, if you're engaged, if you're on social media looking at this or that and you have questions or you really like what someone's doing or what someone's saying, this is your opportunity to actually do something about it.
And we should note, again, City Council is on here.
5 city council seats. There is no mayor. There is no sales tax question.
I was going to say, there's a big question that's not on this one.
That's correct. We highly anticipate, I can't 100% say that until I get the paper in my hand, but we highly anticipate that there will be a question on the potential to increase the sales tax in the city of Knoxville. That I highly anticipate will be on your November ballot, but when you go to vote now, you won't have that question. If you have, we should be able to, maybe a week from now, be able to say, yes, it will be on the November ballot for sure, but you go in, no questions on your ballot. I just want people to know that.
Yeah. You've already kind of touched on it. Going into the election, worries? When you wake up in the morning and go, okay, please, if anything, this is the big thing that I worry about. Well, don't let this happen.
Generally, every day I look at the weather. It's like, because I don't like power outages. That's particularly during early voting. If we have a lot of people sick or something like that, that's also a concern. But basically, my biggest concern are going to be low margins. You're going to have low turnout. You're going to have low margins. Every single one of these 5 districts that's going to be on the ballot has at least 12,000 voters. I believe District 2 has 20,000. And I believe District 4, they're the Fountain City, all the way over to Holston Hills District, has about 14,000, 15,000, something like that. Gosh, if we could get half of those people out to vote, it'd be incredible. I worry about when you get 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 voters in each district, your margins are going to be so small. I don't want somebody. I want people winning by hundreds of votes, not single digits or double digits, and that's my concern because we just want we want everybody to be able to be able to say the voter spoke, and so. That doesn't always happen in these city elections where very low turnouts occur.
Yeah, and you can see, again, the breakdown for you there on the map. Again, looking ahead, I'm sure you've already gone through the whole process as far as making sure everything's working right. I mean, nothing really changes. It doesn't matter the size of the election. No. You got to go through the same
We have the same 640 steps we have to take into every election. I've got a great team that works for me. I got one of them here in the studio back there making fun of me right now, but we have the same steps that we take to make sure that ultimately a voter goes in, he or she can feel secure that their vote's counted once, and that they get an opportunity to vote. And that's very important to us because at the end of the day, I think I've shared this anecdote before. I used to referee basketball for a number of years. As a basketball official, what I did not like were tie games.
Right.
I didn't like 1-point games. I like blowouts. I don't care who wins, and I don't care who wins.
Right.
But I want a blowout because then at that point you're looking to see, okay, if you're a candidate who lost, what can I do better? If you're a candidate who won, do I have a mandate? That's what we want ultimately, is for the voters to decide these things. And so we need everybody out who can cast a ballot. And frankly, occasionally I hear people say voter suppression or voter disenfranchisement. I would make the argument the number one form of voter suppression or disenfranchisement is self-suppression. You have 70,000 people who voted in November of 2024 who live in this city, and if we get 20,000, it'll really be a good day for us. I know that sounds sad out of 82,000 people that could vote in this election, but out of 82,000 people that live in the city that could vote in this, if we get 20, it'll be a great day. In fact, we haven't had 20,000 people vote in a city election in probably since 2019, something like that, in a mayoral election. Right. So. We'll see.
Yeah. And again, just to reiterate, this is if you've never taken advantage of early voting, when we get into November and down the road, you've got to vote where you live.
That's
but
right.
Here, you might be working near a voting.
That's right. Election day, you have to vote in your assigned precinct. I know Courtney's going to be one of your panelists here. I believe maybe she would be zoned for Chilhowie. Maybe she's over there in Holston Hills area. I'm not 100% sure about that.
She's giving the thumbs up.
Give me the thumbs up there. That's good. But if she waits till election day, she votes at Chilhowie. But if she early votes, she has 6 locations. And so we really try to provide convenience for voters. I hear those terms, disenfranchisement and suppression, but I get very few actual phone calls that somebody can point to something. Yeah. We want to make sure that it's accessible to everybody, and then they've got the opportunity. What's the old saying? You take the horse to water, but they have to drink it. So that's what we want.
Real quick, in case anyone has any questions, what have you. Again, where do we go? Websites? Is there a number someone can call?
Absolutely. Anybody who is interested, we're going to start. Obviously, this is Sunday morning. We'll start early voting Wednesday. We actually start nursing home voting tomorrow. We'll be voting at 25 nursing homes, I think, something like that, throughout the city. But you can go to knoxvotes.org, knoxvotes.org, or 865-215-2480. That's our phone number. We've got lots of friendly people glad to answer your questions, and we want people out and voting.
Fantastic. We'll always obviously have information as well at WAT.com. Good luck.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be talking again soon.
Absolutely.
All right, and stay with us. We'll have much more of Tennessee This Week. We'll bring our panel of pundits over, get their thoughts on a number of topics next. All right, welcome back to Tennessee This Week. This week, TVA confirmed to 6 News it has had a higher than normal number of nuclear outages since the start of 2024. And TVA's latest fiscal report shows this has come with added costs to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. TVA tells us that in addition to scheduled maintenance outages, there have been unplanned outages that were primarily caused by electrical or mechanical issues. TVA specifies the issues it has seen over the past year and a half happened on the power generation side of the plant, and that there were no issues with the nuclear reactors themselves. Now, a TVA spokesperson adds all recent issues have been resolved, and the TVA's nuclear fleet is operating reliably. All right, let's bring in our panel of pundits right now to talk about this. Joining us today, as always, Courtney Piper, Craig Griffith, and Michael Covington. Great to have all you guys here.
Glad to be here.
Craig, I'll start right with you then. After hearing the news that we had reported, of course, TVA has been in the news quite a bit as of late, but let me get your thoughts on this latest bit of information.
Well, nuclear plants are very complex pieces of machinery. Sure. And I think, it's good in the sense that, according to the reports, it's all the nuclear portion of the plants, the part that generates the steam, that turns the turbines, that powers the electricity. Those nuclear facilities seem to have been operating reliable, and it was only on the other side of the plant where you're generating the electricity that the problems occur. But of course, if one side's out, the whole plant's out. And TVA's had $500 million worth of expenses related to the outage, which is not a good thing. And I think we also learned this week from Channel 6 learned that the chief nuclear officer of TVA is retiring. A coincidence? One could speculate that perhaps not. And that this individual is not retiring until 2026. Maybe he'll retire earlier than that. So we'll see. It's a whole little issue there of nuclear plants. Yes. We have 40% of the TVA power from nuclear plants. Is that the proper balance that we need in nuclear, solar, renewables, and gas? So we maybe need to look at that balance to make sure we're in the right place.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, you saw Timothy Roush's picture there. He's been in that position since I think about 2018, so he's been there for quite some time. Courtney, let me get your thoughts then.
Hey, what WAT reported with our nuclear power plants in the Tennessee Valley is normal and typical of nuclear power. It is not unique to the Tennessee Valley Authority. I'll remind our viewers that nuclear power originated from one of the greatest feats of humanity, which was splitting atoms so that we could create a nuclear bomb to end World War II. From that innovation, from that technology came nuclear power that we use every day to power our homes that's emission-free. But it's very complicated. It's extraordinarily complicated, and it is extraordinarily costly to build, maintain, and operate a nuclear power plant. Now, once you're doing that and you're generating the electricity, that is super cheap. But these are just inherent systems that are involved with nuclear power, which is why the Tennessee Valley Authority has gone all in on the next generation of nuclear reactors and all in on small modular reactors, because that's how we get the costs of nuclear down, yet still provide the same sorts of benefits. And TVA is in a unique position, this region is in a unique position to lead that nuclear renaissance. I think that the retirement of the gentleman who's in charge of nuclear power for TVA, I don't think these two things were connected. TVA, I believe it's trying to position itself for the next generation of nuclear power. And with that, you've got to get some new blood, some new insights, and some new leadership.
That's what I was going to ask you, is that more about moving forward and bringing new ideas?
Oh,
absolutely. That's kind of what you're going with.
Absolutely.
Okay. Michael, down there on the end, let's get your thoughts.
I just want to say I'm very impressed with what Courtney had to share about how energy is created and how it can be converted into electricity pretty easily and inexpensively once you get the infrastructure in place. That's good information. There's not really a lot that I can add to that. What I will say is this. At the end of the cycle of where TVA gets where TVA wants to be, I want to get to the issue that is of concern to viewers, which is that last month's KUB bill was bested by this month's KU bill in my household by $100. The usage is not more. The thermostat is set the same every night, every morning, every noon. Nothing has changed about the usage. Nothing has changed about the consumption of water. Nothing. But $100, and I won't tell you what that percentage is, but it's really high. That percentage increase from the May, June to June, July was too high to not have an explanation. That's all I'm saying.
Well, now that you mention it, Michael, our KUB bill was extraordinarily high as well.
I think a lot of people want to say it, especially as hot as it's been.
That's what viewers want to know.
But this is a whole issue of supply and demand,
Okay.
and TVA has been very transparent about that. And TVA and the entire country, we need more power. We need it in the ground like yesterday. So when there isn't a lot of supply and demand is skyrocketing because of our use of electronics and AI and computing, your prices go up. That's why we need to get more power, all kinds of power, onto the grid yesterday so that those prices can continue to come down so we even out our supply and demand a little bit more.
Well, I hate to be a Debbie Downer on nuclear power,
Oh,
but anyway, just a historical perspective.
Sure.
Back in the 70s, TVA embarked on the greatest nuclear power plant construction program ever thought up in the United States, and it was a bust. Many plants never went online. They had incredible cost increases in the price for the plants. TVA power users paid for those empty nuclear plants in the terms of billions of dollars through their rates for decades. And I think we're moving away from the huge mega power plants
Right.
that were being built to these smaller modular reactors. But on the other hand, I want to proceed with a note of caution on moving forward with our nuclear program through TVA. The history is not there to show that it's capable of doing things at a scale that we need to have it done. And I will mention...
Whoa. Not the Tennessee Valley powered 7 states. How can you say they are not capable?
In the nuclear side.
They have a giant nuclear fleet that they operate safely.
Giant, but it's a quarter of what it was supposed
I
to
would
be.
invite you to explain if there's another utility anywhere in the country that hasn't experienced the same issues that TVA has.
Well, no other utility in the country attempted to embark on a program that cost the taxpayers so much and delivered so little as in the early 70s in their nuclear program. It was built on the fact that they were going to predicting tremendous growth in the population of the Tennessee Valley. Mm-hmm. They had to go ahead. They went ahead and decided that growth warranted coming up with a nuclear program that was way beyond their means. And now we're promoting the new nuclear plans on the great growth in population and energy usage through things like AI. But on the other hand, I'm going to say you have a Chinese program on AI that it's consuming 1/3 of the power of the ones in the United States. So I'm worried about the forecasting ability. I'm worried about us committing to things like we did in the 70s that will result in tremendous rate increases over time, which gets back to Michael's point about where we are when we turn on our thermostat and when we get our bill every month. Is this going to benefit the consumer?
Courtney, closing thought on this before we move on? Or
Every single utility that embarked on a nuclear energy program experienced those same things. And what we're looking at now is the next generation of nuclear technologies, and there are lessons to learn, but we've got big goals and big power needs we need to meet, and we need to be all in. Nuclear is certainly a part of that.
And Michael, I'll give you anything to chime in. I know you've said you kind of said your point, made your point. But
Well, again, I think the banter has been constructive. I've learned some things about energy generation and the economics of it. I hope they get better at this. We really need them to get better at this.
all right, and we're going to stop right there. We need to take a quick break. Stay with us. More of Tennessee This Week right after the break. And welcome back to Tennessee This Week. On Wednesday, we learned that a system-wide independent review of the University of Tennessee has been launched after Senator Marsha Blackburn raised some concerns over DEI programs. In a letter sent to UTK Chancellor Dondi Plowman, Senator Blackburn cites leaked video footage. She says the video shows employees at UT's flagship Knoxville campus making comments that DEI programs have not been abandoned, hinting they are still, running under different names. In a response to Senator Blackburn, Plowman says UT takes these concerns seriously. So let's bring our panel of pundits back in to talk about this. Courtney, I'm going to start with you. I know that the Chancellor also made a comment, said the people that were making those comments do not represent, they misrepresent the university in making those comments. But let me kind of get your thoughts, being a VFL.
Yes.
Let me see what you had to think about when you saw this back and forth between Plowman and Blackburn.
I wouldn't mess with Dondi Plowman. I would not mess with Chancellor Plowman. You know, she takes her responsibilities seriously, and I wouldn't mess with her. I don't understand. Well, I do understand the reasoning behind picking this fight. It gives a little bit of red meat to Senator Blackburn's base. We all know she is rumored to be wanting to run for governor. She gets in the news cycle. Her name gets out there a little bit more. So perhaps that was the motivation for bringing this up. But, I'm not going to be messing with Chancellor Plowman.
Michael?
Okay, I'm getting ready to mess with Chancellor Plowman.
Oh, well, to your detriment.
Okay, she needs to bring it because I read that letter. That letter was full of nonsense. Here's the problem. Take Blackburn out, take Plowman out. Two people did say something specific. They made reference to intent. We will sidestep this executive order. We will do it. We have a plan. Those individuals are still employed. They shouldn't be. Their actions, by definition, were violations of compliance intent. So they're guilty, and they're still employed. So, Chancellor Plowman, I admire you, I respect you, but you're on the wrong side of this, and you won't always be allowed to be on the wrong side of things just because you've been on the right side of some other things. She's wrong in this. They were guilty. They did try to sidestep Donald Trump's executive order. They got caught. Now Randy Boyd has to get involved and put in an audit of the system. They're going to find some guilt there at the University of Tennessee. What happens from there? I don't know, but the two individuals that did the sidestepping, I'll give Dondi Plowman a pass. They need to be terminated.
Craig?
To me, this is an example of how the cultural wars have taken over our politics and our public space. This is an issue, and I'll go back to when I was managing things in the public sector. The need for we would press down hiring decisions to the lowest levels, and what we found out when you looked at the hiring patterns after that was that the people hired people that looked just like themselves. So you would have a perpetuation of the demographics of whatever that organization was. And I think that's true in public universities and public agencies, and it needs to be addressed in some way. Is DEI the solution to it? I don't know. But it's a problem that occurs. We want our public institutions to reflect our community. And I think that a method needs to come up. If you don't want to use the initials DEI, then use something else. But it's a goal worthy of going after.
Correct me if I'm wrong real quick. We've about 30 seconds here. But I want to say, you mentioned Randy Boyd. He's going to look at every UT campus, correct?
Yes.
Just not UTK, but this is UT Chattanooga, Martin, all the campuses. Was it 5 campuses I think we have now? So but we'll continue to follow that. guys, we could talk about this. I have a feeling we will be talking more about this topic in the days, weeks, months ahead. So until then, have yourself a great day, a great week, and we'll do it all again next week right here on Tennessee This Week.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Nexstar Broadcasting.